Hola, 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 mis estudiantes, y bienvenidos to the continuation of Module 1B, our instructional videos. And again, the module is Hola, ¿cómo te llamas? Hi, what's your name? This is instructional video number 3. After you watch this, you will be partially prepared to start into the second section of the study plan en la clase. I want to remind you after this video, please continue by watching video 4 before you actually go into study plan section 2. In this particular module, or actually I should say in the study plan, the objectives are to identify common objects in the classroom. Let's look at the specifics. El vocabulario is going to include en la mochila, in the backpack, en la clase, in the class, en el salón de clase, in the classroom. I want you to notice something that I've added to this particular module to highlight for you. You're going to see some different colors of letters, specifically the blue and the red. I want you to notice that there are two nouns, vocabulario, a noun, of course, being a person, place, or thing. Vocabulario, meaning vocabulary. That's a good cognate. Looks very much like its English word. Notice I've highlighted the O at the end of that word. That's indicating that that word is masculine. There's something called gender in the Spanish language, and words, nouns specifically, are either masculine or feminine. So a telltale sign when you see a noun that ends in O, it is generally masculine. There are exceptions to that. So in order to say the vocabulary or the vocabulary, the in this case is el. That is the masculine singular way to say the, that you have to connect with a masculine noun. El vocabulario. Now look at the noun for backpack, mochila, ending in A. What do you think that means? It's not a masculine noun, it is a, you got it, feminine noun. So it needs to agree with the definite article the in front. We can't say el mochila. That would be a masculine definite article with a feminine noun. That doesn't work. Things have to agree in Spanish. So instead, the feminine singular way to say the is la mochila. Moving on, you will see clase. There's no telltale sign at the end. And by the way, most feminine nouns that end in A, most nouns that end in A in Spanish are feminine, but there are exceptions to that rule. Once again, now moving on to clase, ending in an E. There's no sign there. So how do you know which that noun is, masculine or feminine? Well, look at the article. La. You got it. It is a feminine noun. How do you know that? Well, you simply memorize that. When you first learn this noun, you learn it as la clase. Little children, when they're learning Spanish, they connect these nouns with the masculine or feminine articles in front, and they immediately know they're masculine or feminine. So you will say la clase, la clase, la clase so many times that el clase just won't sound right. It'll stick with you that it's feminine. Take a look at salon, same idea, ends in an N, no clue there. Is it masculine or feminine? You tell me. You got it. It's masculine because you're learning it as el salón, a masculine noun. Now the other piece that's going to be added in this particular segment is el verbo I, the verb I. That is not hey for horses, mis amigos. In Spanish, you already learned the alphabet. The H at the beginning of a noun is silent. So you simply start with the A sound, the vowel A, and then the Y sound is E. So I. Can you repeat that for me? Repita, I. And we'll be learning in a bit what that means. Before we get into this vocabulary, let's talk about some rules for pronunciation and stress. Before we get into that, let's do a review of the vowels. Repita, por favor. Please repeat after me. A, E, I, O, U. Again, A, E, I, O, U. Say them with me about 3 times. Let's go. A, E, I, O, U. Real short staccato. A, E, I, O, U. Last time. A, E, I, O, U. The great thing about learning Spanish, there is one and only one way to pronounce each of these vowels. Doesn't change up on you. It's actually much easier to learn Spanish than English in that sense, because you will always only hear the vowels how? You got it. A, E, I, O, U. The stressed syllable rule. If a word ends in a vowel, N or S, the natural stress is on the next to the last syllable. Let's take a look. Repita, por favor. Mochila. Mochila. Examen. Examen. Papeles. Papeles. Now, going through your reading, you're not going to have the highlighted, underlined syllable for stress, but I want, in this particular video, they will be initially highlighted for you, and they'll be darkened for you, so you can kind of get the hang of it. What about other consonants? Consonants, not N or S, and not a vowel. The natural stress is on the last syllable. Repita, por favor. Marcador. Marcador. Papel, papel, reloj, reloj. So natural stress at the end. What about those accents? Accents change the stressed syllable. They can change the spelling. If you spell a word without the accent in writing, it's wrong. It's misspelled. And accents change meanings of words. Let's take a look. Repita, por favor, lápiz. Lápiz, the word for pencil. If that accent weren't there, because that ends in a consonant other than N or S, you would say lápiz, but that is totally wrong. Lápiz means pencil. It would be like us saying pencil, pencil. People would say, why are you talking like that? It is lápiz. So you have to include that accent in writing and, of course, in reading in order to know which syllable is stressed. Let's continue. Repita. Esta. Está, esta, está. The accent changes the stress, and it also changes the meaning. Esta means this. For example, esta mesa, this table. Está is a conjugation of the verb estar, to be. ¿Cómo está? How are you? Él está bien. He is fine. So it changes both the spelling, changes the pronunciation, and the meaning. Take a look at the next, and let's pronounce these two. Repita, él, él. They sound exactly the same. But in writing, él with an accent means he. Él without an accent means the. So it is a very misspelled word. It actually changes the meaning of the word. Same with the next one. Repita, sí, sí. Sound exactly the same, but in writing, sí with an accent means yes. Sí without an accent means if. So as you memorize vocabulary, also memorize the accents. Very, very important piece of the Spanish language. Let's do some práctica. Take a look at the first word. Do not be scared of big, long vocabulary words. Break it down into syllables. Think about where that stress is and go for it. Let's take the first one. Repita. I, ma, chi, that's a guttural ch, na, sion. Repita, imaginación. Imaginación. You got it. There's an accent on that O because those two vowels at the end, the I and the O, would go together for one sound, sio, and the accent would actually be on the na if that accent were included. Let's look at the next word. Very slowly now. Repeat each syllable. Remember your vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Let's go. Repita. De, sa, for, tu, na, da, mente. A little quicker. De, sa, for, tu, na, da, mente. A little quicker. Desafortunadamente. The whole thing. Desafortunadamente. There you go, which means unfortunately. Here's a little trick. If you're having some trouble pronouncing a long word, start with the syllable at the end and then slowly go forward. Let's practice that. Repita. Te. mente, da mente, nadamente, tunadamente, fortunadamente, afortunadamente, desafortunadamente. And you'll get the hang of it. Don't worry. Remember, a, e, I, o, u. And let's take a look at the last one. Notice where the stress is. You pronounce it first. I'll pretend I'm listening. Slowly. All right, it should have come out like this. Antipático. Antipático. Did it? Okay. Let's begin and learn our vocabulario. Please repeat each word 2 times. Start to form the muscle memory of saying the word and the memory of listening to yourself speaking. Repita, en la mochila. En la mochila. In the backpack. La mochila. La mochila. Backpack. El diccionario. El diccionario. Dictionary. Now you're very tempted because this is such a good cognate to say diccionario. I know because you want to say the I sound. Remember, I is always I. Diccionario. So try to get your English brain out of the Spanish pronunciation. Let's continue. Repita, la computadora. La computadora. Good cognate. Looks like the English. Repita, la calculadora. La calculadora. Calculator. El teléfono. El teléfono. No need to underline the stressed syllable. You know it is the syllable that's accented. El teléfono. Good cognate, just like it's English almost. Repita. El libro. El libro. So you can think of a library having lots of books. That's a good hook to remember the word for book. See what you remember. ¿Cómo se dice the backpack? Repita, la mochila. ¿Cómo se dice, which of course means how do you say, ¿cómo se dice the dictionary? And I'm looking for you to say the word the also. Repita, el diccionario. ¿Cómo se dice the computer? Repita, la computadora. Calculator. Repita, la calculadora. Telephone. Repita, el teléfono. Book. Repita, el libro. Let's see each one more time. Repita, la mochila. El diccionario. La computadora. La calculadora. El teléfono. El libro. Now you can't see me when I am speaking, but I am really opening my mouth for these vowels. Listen to the difference. If I sort of speak it with a mumble, I'm not opening my mouth. So listen to the difference. Mochila, el diccionario, la computadora. You're just not going to get the enunciation. So really be opening your mouth, okay? Now in this next activity, one of these is going to disappear. So look at them. Mira means look. Mira, and I'm going to ask you, what isn't there? ¿Qué no está? So mira, ¿qué no está? Repita, la computadora. ¿Qué no está? Try to say the Spanish word. Repita, la mochila. ¿Qué no está? Repite, el teléfono. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la calculadora. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el libro. ¿Y qué no está? Repita, el diccionario. In the next activity, the pictures are going to scroll up from the bottom to the top of the screen, and your job is to call out that vocabulary word before it appears on the screen. Ready? Listo? Listo means ready. Listo? Here we go. La computadora. El libro. El diccionario. La calculadora. La mochila. El teléfono. Let's add some more vocabulary words. Repita el marcador. El marcador. Marker. El cuaderno. El cuaderno. Notebook. El bolígrafo. El bolígrafo. Pen. Now, Spanish speakers will shorten this and call it el bolí. It's like us saying photograph and then shortening it to photo, sort of that idea, el bolígrafo. Repita, el lápiz. El lápiz. Pencil. Repita, la carpeta. La carpeta. Folder. When I was teaching Spanish to my middle schoolers, I would try to give them hooks to connect a Spanish word with English. So I would say, think of walking into your house and there are folders all over the floor like a carpet of folders. Get that visual. It'll help you remember. And you can think of those types of links on your own as well. Repita, el papel. El papel. The paper. Repita, la hoja de papel. La hoja de papel, which is the sheet or leaf of paper. If you look in a tree, you'll see it full of hojas. Hoja is the word for leaf. La hoja de papel. ¿Cómo se dice marker? Repita, el marcador. Our notebook. Repita, el cuaderno. Pen. Repita, el bolígrafo. Pencil. Repita, el lápiz. Folder. Repita, la carpeta. Paper. Repita, el papel. Leaf of paper, sheet of paper. Repita, la hoja de papel. Now mira, one is going to disappear. Desaparecer. ¿Qué no está? Repita el marcador. Mira. ¿Qué no está? Repita el papel. ¿Qué no está? Repita el lápiz. ¿Qué no está? Repita el bolígrafo. ¿Qué no está? Repita la carpeta. ¿Qué no está? Repita la hoja de papel. ¿Y qué no está? Repita el cuaderno. They're getting ready to scroll by. Call it out before it disappears. El marcador. El bolígrafo. La carpeta. La hoja de papel. El cuaderno. El lápiz. El papel. Now I'm going to put it together, and this is the picture that you're going to see when you go into the study plan section 2. And I'm going to ask you a question, so let's do a little work with this vocabulary. And the question I'm going to ask you is, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? What do you have? That word tienes is a verb, an action word, coming from the verb tener, meaning to have. And that is the to form. The you form, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? What do you have in your backpack? The answer is going to be, en mi mochila tengo un or una, whatever the item is. What in the world does un or una mean? Let's take a look. Un is how you say a or an before a masculine noun. So for example, un libro, a book. Un cuaderno, a folder. What do you mean it can mean a or an? Well, if I told you un borrador, borrador is eraser. Un borrador would be an eraser. So depending on the English translation, you might have to say an instead of a. Similarly, una is the way to say a or an in front of or before a feminine noun. Una mochila, a backpack. Una carpeta, a folder. Un cuaderno, a notebook there. And likewise, what do you mean it can mean an? Well, if you said una manzana, manzana means apple. So you wouldn't say a apple. In English translation, you would have to say an apple. So una manzana would mean an apple. Now, just FYI, you can also say, if you're constructing your own sentences, en mi mochila tengo 3 lápices. En mi mochila tengo 2 bolígrafos. So you can also put a number in here. That is also appropriate. Notice how the tú, your mochila, changes to me. My mochila in the answer. That makes sense, right? You're going to have to change that word to make sense. So let's do some práctica, un modelo. I'll ask you the question, ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? I'll put up a number that's going to be pointing to something. Now in this case, that's actually a dictionary. It's kind of hard to see, but look at the screen and you'll see they put up a dictionary on their computer. So how would you say, in my backpack, I have a dictionary. En mi mochila tengo un diccionario. Awesome. Now, could you also just say tengo un diccionario? Would that be a complete sentence? Absolutely. I have a dictionary. But for practice, I want you speaking and I want you saying a nice, big, robust sentence. In my backpack, I have a dictionary. En mi mochila tengo un diccionario. It's also a real good idea to just repeat a certain structure because it sticks in your mind. So let's get started. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 3. Look at what it's pointing to. En mi mochila tengo una computadora. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 4. And it's pointing to the certain aspect, what's going on in the screen of that phone. Muy bien, en mi mochila tengo una calculadora. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 5. Now the whole device itself. En mi mochila tengo un teléfono. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 6. Bien, en mi mochila tengo un libro. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 7. En mi mochila tengo un marcador. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 8. En mi mochila tengo un cuaderno. They're calling that a type of a notebook. I'm sure it's blank paper inside. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? Número 9. En mi mochila tengo un bolígrafo. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 10. En mi mochila tengo un lápiz. ¿Qué tienes en tu mochila? 11. En mi mochila tengo una carpeta. ¿Y qué tienes en tu mochila? 12. 2 ways that you could say this. En mi mochila tengo un papel. O en mi mochila tengo una hoja de papel. Bravo. Let's move on for the second batch of vocabulario in this section. En la clase, in the class. Repita, la pared. La pared. Wall. So think of a pair of walls. Maybe that'll help you remember that one. Repita, el estudiante. El estudiante. The student. Now, how would you know that I'm referring to a male student? It ends in E. What are you looking at to give you that pointer? You got it. You're looking at the el, the masculine way to say the. So you know this means the student who is masculine, a guy. La estudiante. Repita, la estudiante. So here we have the difference between saying El estudiante, the student who is male. En la estudiante, the student who is female. The only way you can tell is by listening to that definite article, da, el or la. Repita, por favor, el reloj. El reloj. And that you get a little h at the end there. The clock. Repita, el proyector. El proyector. Good cognate. You're replacing the J in projector with a Y. Muy bien, ¿cómo se dice the wall? Repita, la pared. ¿Cómo se dice the student who's male? Repita, el estudiante, female student. La estudiante. Clock. Repita, el reloj. Projector. Repita, el proyector. Ready? One's going to disappear. Mira que no está. Repite, el proyector. Que no está. Repita, la estudiante. Que no está. Repita, la pared. Que no está. Repita, el reloj. ¿Y qué no está? Repita, el estudiante. Call it out before it disappears. La estudiante. El proyector. La pared. El estudiante. El reloj. A few more words in this section. Repita, la mesa. La mesa. Table. El pupitre. El pupitre. Oh, we didn't underline that one. Next to the last syllable is stressed, and this is a student desk. Student desk. Pupitre. Repita, la cortina. La cortina. Curtain. Kind of similar to its English word curtain. La cortina. Repita, la ventana. La ventana. Window. Nice hook here. You can think of a vent. Air going in and out. Maybe that'll connect you to the fact that it's a window, a vent. La ventana. Repita, el profesor. El profesor. A teacher who's male. And look at the difference. Repita, la profesora. La profesora. In this case, you added an A. But notice it's not profesoro. It's just profesor. And the feminine version is profesora with the A. ¿Cómo se dice the table? Repita, la mesa. The student desk. Repita, el pupitre. The curtain. Repita, la cortina. The window. Repita, la ventana. The teacher who's a male. Repita, el profesor. Female teacher. La profesora. Mira, look, and one will desaparecer. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el profesor. ¿Qué no está? Repita, el pupitre. Mira, ¿qué no está? Repita, la profesora. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la mesa. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la ventana. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la cortina. Call it out. La ventana. La profesora. La mesa. La cortina. El profesor. El pupitre. Let's put it together. But in this case, instead of using our verb tener, to have, what do you have? I'm going to use this little verb I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the verb hay. Oh, that's right. I told you it's not hay like horses. How do you pronounce Hay? I. I. Pretend the H isn't there. Pronounce the A for the A sound and the E for the Y. I. I. ¿Qué hay en la clase? Now this interesting little verb means in a question, is there, are there? And in answer, it means there is or there are. Interesting because it can be either singular or plural. So, ¿qué hay en la clase? What is there in the class? Or, what are there in the class? It can be singular or plural. And you're going to respond, en la clase hay un or una. And remember, un is the masculine way to say a or an, un reloj, un pupitre. Una, the feminine way to say a or an, una mesa, una cortina. Let's look at un modelo. Número uno. The question I'll ask you, ¿qué hay en la clase? And you tell me in the class there is a wall. En la clase hay una pared. Muy bien. Número dos. ¿Qué hay en la clase? En la clase hay un estudiante. Now, this is kind of interesting because there are several male students. So how would I say there are some students? There's not just one male student. You use unos. En la clase hay unos estudiantes. So you make your noun plural and you change un to unos. You change a or an to some. Now, interestingly, when you use the masculine plural estudiantes, that can be a group that's all male, or it can be a group that's male or female. We'll get into that down the road when we talk about plurals, but just trust me on that one. Unos estudiantes can mean some students, an entire group of male students, or some students, a group that's mixed. Let's take a look at the next one. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 3? Same thing going on here. En la clase hay una estudiante. There are actually some female students. So what do you think you would do? How would you say some female students? Give it a guess. I think you got it. Unas estudiantes. Some students, and in this case, it's all just a female. Okay, all a female group. Let's continue. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 4? En la clase hay un reloj. And by the way, could you just answer hay un reloj? Is that a complete sentence? Absolutely. There is a clock. But I'm having you do that practice, get that muscle memory. I want you to pronounce that beginning of the sentence repetitively. En la clase hay un reloj. Número 5. ¿Qué hay en la clase? En la clase hay un proyector. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 6? En la clase hay una mesa. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 7? En la clase hay un pupitre. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 8? En la clase hay una cortina. There might be some curtains in there, more than one. How would you say that? You got it. Hay unas cortinas. There's some curtains. ¿Qué hay en la clase número 9? What's there behind the curtain peeking out? En la clase hay una ventana. Y finalmente, ¿qué hay en la clase número 10? En la clase hay un profesor. Now there's a vocabulary word we are not using. Profesora. How would you say there is not a female teacher? Oh, and by the way, no hay profesora. By the way, professor, that's self-corrected and it changed that to English. So there's only one S in profesor. Sorry about that misspelling. But profesora is spelled correctly. Now notice when you say there isn't A, female teacher, you take the A out in Spanish. You say no hay profesora. The negative, you remove that indefinite article a or an for the expression. You simply say no hay profesora. Muy bien, our last little batch of vocabulario en el salón de clase, in the classroom. Repita, la luz. La luz. Light. Repita, el mapa. What? Wait a second, I'm confused. Mapa ends in A. So that's a feminine noun, right? Shouldn't that be la mapa? Well, do you remember when I told you most nouns that end in A are feminine? And then I said there are exceptions. And this is one of them. So, el mapa is indeed the way you say the map. It is a masculine noun that ends in A. Repita, el mapa. El mapa. La pizarra. La pizarra, which means chalkboard, whiteboard. I always would say to my middle school students, think of throwing a pizza up there on that board. Try to link that to remembering the word pizarra for board. Repita, la tiza. La tiza. The chalk. So maybe you can think a piece of tiza, a piece of chalk, a piece of tiza. Repita, la puerta. La puerta. The door. This is when it's very important that you pronounce the vowels separately. Puerta. Puerta. It affects the pronunciation. And maybe you can think of a port as a doorway, kind of, for boats to go in and out. La puerta, the door. Repita, la silla. Silla. Nice cognate for seat or chair. Notice the LL sound, the combination comes out like a y sound. Silla. Repita, la basura. La basura, which is garbage can, waste paper can. Y repita, el escritorio. El escritorio, which is the word for desk. You also learned el pupitre, which is a student desk, a smaller desk. El escritorio is something more substantial. Notice the root there for scribe, write, right? A scribe was a person who wrote in the olden days more so. And the verb escribir means to write. We'll get into that down the road. So you see kind of that root in there for something you write on, el escritorio. ¿Cómo se dice the light? Repita, la luz. The map. Careful. Got it. El mapa. Repita, ¿cómo se dice the board? Repita, la pizarra. Chalk, the chalk. Repita, la tiza. The door. Repita, la puerta. The seat. Repita, la silla. The garbage can, wastebasket. Repita, la basura. The desk. Repita, el escritorio. Let's say them one more time. Repita, la luz. El mapa. La pizarra. La tiza. La puerta. La silla. La basura. El escritorio. Mira, one's about to desaparecer. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la pizarra. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la puerta. Mira. ¿Qué no está? El mapa. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la tiza. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la basura. Mira. ¿Qué no está? Repita, la silla. ¿Qué no está? You already got it there. Repita, la luz. ¿Y qué no está? Repita, el escritorio. Call it out before it flies by. La silla. El mapa. La basura. La pizarra. La puerta. La luz. La tiza. El escritorio. Our final wrap up, we're going to use once again I. Remember how you say that? I. What are there in the classroom? ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? You're going to answer en el salón de clase I. Give me an un or una, a or an. And remember that you can also add some, unos or unas. Let's see a modelo. Número uno. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? First, en el salón de clase hay una luz. But there are more than one. So how could you tell me in the classroom there are some lights? En el salón de clase hay unas luces. Now this is kind of interesting. I'll just touch on this briefly. If a vowel ends in Z, to make it plural, the Z changes out to C and you add an ES. We'll get into making plurals down the road. But it's kind of interesting. That's going to happen with pencil too. Lápiz is going to become lápices. Z changing to C and add the ES. So let's see how well you do. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase 2? En el salón de clase hay un mapa. Did you remember un? Masculine, you got it. Número 3. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? En el salón de clase hay una pizarra. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase 4? En el salón de clase hay una tiza. ¿Qué hay en el salón? Oh, unas tizas. Yep, because probably on that chalkboard tray there are some chalks. There are a few, more than one. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 5? En el salón de clase hay una puerta. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 6? Two ways to say this one. See if you get them. En el salón de clase hay una silla. And en el salón de clase hay unas sillas. There are actually some seats, so we want to include the plural there. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 7? Pointing down to a garbage can, hard to see. En el salón de clase hay una basura. And I added something there. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase número 8? En el salón de clase hay un escritorio. How did you do? Muy bien, it's el fin, the end of instructional video 3 for Module 1B Study Plan Section 2. Now, remember, you need to access video 4 before you go into Study Plan Section 2. There's something else you need to work with a little bit. I'll give you a preview. It's números de 0 a 31. Did you catch that? Numbers from 0 to 31. So I'll see you soon for that video. Ciao, adios.